Welcome to the truth. This is the January 31st, 2026 edition. We're coming to you from West Palm Beach, Florida today from our new studio. It's only taken 5 years to get here, folks. My wife and I bought this piece of property actually 5.5 years ago. We started construction of our new home 3 years ago, and we're just now moving in. But I'm ecstatic about our new studio. We're not fully in yet, but I tell you what, you come back next week and I'll give you a full tour, and we'll show you our studio and our proximity to Mar-a-Lago. And we're very excited. Appreciate your joining us. Thank you for coming to be with us today. As always, we're on Getter and Rumble and YouTube and Facebook. Please subscribe to us if you'd like to. It doesn't cost anything. It's painless, and it would really mean a lot to us. Just search for John Gordon Truth, and you can go to Getter and Rumble and Facebook right now. Hit the live button, look for John Gordon Truth. We're right there, and you can interact with us on Getter. In the live chat, we'll look for what you have to say and respond appropriately. And we're happy to have you. As always, you can email me, johngordontruth@gmail.com. So, President Trump named Kevin Warsh as the new chair of the Federal Reserve. It came early because Jerome Powell's term is not up until May. A lot of people are questioning whether he will stay on, whether he will cling to what little respect and power he has left, or whether he will exit gracefully on stage left. You know, he's under a lot of pressure because he has exceeded the budget for the Fed renovation, and he lied to Congress about it. He said there are no rooftop patios. There is. There's no executive elevator. There is. And there are no executive dining rooms. There are. So, and $2.5 billion cost overrun, according to President Trump. Jerome Powell disputes that. He says, well, you're not considering the renovation that was done several years ago as a separate number. But regardless, Trump wants to push him out. Now, I have not been a harsh critic of Jerome Powell. I think he's done a reasonably good job. He's been given a tough assignment. Biden gave us 9% inflation. If he hadn't gotten it under control, this economy could have spun out of control, and we could have been really in bad shape right now. But I think Powell and the governors of the Federal Reserve have done an admirable job of bringing inflation down while not sending us into a recession. The only thing that's been stubborn through this whole process is the unemployment rate, and it is starting to show the beginnings of an improvement, but we're just not there yet. We're still at 4.3% unemployment. We got up to 4.4% a couple of months ago. It did tick down a bit. New jobless claims were much less in December than were expected, so that's a positive. And I think that the unemployment rate will start to come down. Inflation continues to come down. The price of petroleum has much improved. The price of gasoline in some areas is under $3 a gallon, if you can imagine that. The average nationwide is about $3.20 a gallon, but that includes California as part of that average. If you took California out, it would be an even much better picture. The lowering of interest rates and the curbing of the reduction of the Fed's assets is a big deal. Now, reducing the number of bonds that the Fed owns is not favored by a lot of people because it could constrain the economy a bit. But I think if it's done slowly and consistently over a long period of time, the markets would react to it just fine. But interest rates definitely continue to be high at 3.5%. President Trump wants them at 1%. That's Trump speak for really 2%. I think he would be ecstatic if the Fed would get them down to 2.5%, 2%. We'd see new investment in this country like we've never seen before, coupled with the $18 trillion that has been promised from companies operating currently outside the United States that have committed to bringing their manufacturing and their businesses back into the U.S., like Apple, who's going to start manufacturing a lot of the Apple phone, the iPhone, right here in good old USA. And that is a good thing because it reduces our dependency not only on China, but also India. So I'm really excited about the way this economy is going. I just hope and pray that we'll be able to continue to work on the federal deficit, which is now at $37 trillion. That's a staggering number. And it would take that many years, 37 years, to reduce the deficit to nothing. If we reduced it 10% a year, it would take 10 years to whittle away at it, or 30 years, 37 years. But you got to start sometime. And President Trump is hoping that the tariffs, with newfound money rushing into the Treasury, is going to rise the tide for everyone, and that we will outrun the debt effectively because it will become a smaller percentage of our GDP. And that's a good strategy if it works. Now, you couple that with a couple of things. One, the federal government getting its spending in order, and I think it's happening. The federal number of federal employees have been reduced by 300,000 or 400,000 in just a year. And Trump wants to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. He's going to reduce regulation. It's already happening. And then if we get interest rate relief to go along with that, man, this economy could be on fire. A lot of people are predicting a 6% growth in the GDP this year. We have not seen those kind of growth rates since Ronald Reagan was president. Let the good times roll. All right, well, we've got America's psychiatrist on tap for us today. Carole Lieberman will be here. She bills herself as the terrorist therapist, and really what she is relating to when she says that, she provided pro bono therapy for families of 9/11 victims. And so Dr. Lieberman is a really nice lady. She's been on The Truth 2 or 3 times previously. She's going to make another appearance today. She is a sweet, smart lady who now lives in Los Angeles, and I know that it's going to be an interview that you're going to want to stay tuned for. And we're coming to you today on the John Fredericks Media Network and CDM.press. John Fredericks has 24 stations in 9 cities, from Nashville, Atlanta, Richmond, Norfolk, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Morgantown, and Lynchburg. So we come to you live every Saturday and Sunday from noon to 2. You can also catch us at johngordon.tv. All of our past episodes are there. And of course, we always welcome you to join us on Getter, where you can interact with us live. I really hope, I just have one teensy-weensy little favor to ask. 98%, listen to this, 98% of our listeners do not subscribe to our channel. That is an unbelievable statistic. If half you fellas, ladies and gentlemen, would go, don't go to YouTube, go to Rumble or Getter and subscribe there. We've been on Getter about 3 months. We have almost as many subscribers on Getter as we do on YouTube, and we've been on YouTube for a year and a half. They're throttling us. They're censoring us. Pay them back by subscribing to us on Getter or Rumble or even Facebook. And I love Getter because you can interact with us and you can say, "Oh, Johnny G, you're full of it today, buddy. You need to get real, man." And I love your comments. And sometimes you say, "Amen, praise the Lord. Right on, Johnny. Keep it up." So I appreciate our listeners so very much. I want to talk to you about a subject that we have covered a lot. The biggest fanny in America, our choice, our selection for the Georgia Dumbass of the Year Award for 2025, none other than Fani Willis. And look, the chickens are coming home to roost. The FBI, I got it wrong, but I did predict 6 months ago, I predicted it. You didn't believe me, that the U.S. Marshals would go to the English Street warehouse and get all the absentee ballots from 2020. I was wrong. It wasn't the marshals. It was the FBI. And they didn't go to English Street. They went to the new warehouse that I was unaware of. That doesn't matter. What matters is we're going to get answers. 700 boxes picked up and sent to Virginia, where they're being analyzed one ballot at a time. And you know what the Democrats had the nerve to say? I'm worried about the security of those ballots. There's just no telling what could happen to them while they're under the control of the Trump administration. Give me a freaking break. What liars and desperate people. And, voter suppression. They're trying to keep you from voting. They want to discourage you from voting. They've claimed the ballots. And why are we getting ballots from 6 years ago? Look, we're not relitigating 2020, okay? Biden was the illegitimate president. He served for 4 disastrous years. Thank you to you deep staters who gave us that disaster. I hope you realize and are remorseful for your dastardly deeds. You'd be rid of Trump by now. He would have served his second term, and he would have been retired in Palm Beach, Florida. He would be out of your hair by now. Thank God you're as stupid as you are demonic. Because if you had used any sense at all, you would have realized that you had prevented Trump from doing what he wanted to do in his first term. You would have continued to do more of the same in his second term, and you probably would have slowed him down. Well, you didn't know that your dumbass ideas and your fake prosecutions were going to galvanize the American people against you and in favor of Trump. You didn't know that trying to kill Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania would actually make up the mind of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who were then sympathetic to Trump, like Elon Musk, who donated $250 million to the Republican Party and spent 6 weeks campaigning for Trump in Pennsylvania, the #1 swing state, and we carried it by a landslide. So that's how stupid you Democrats are. And now it's your turn in the barrel, because while you made up fake things about Trump, we've got the receipts from you. And man, is it going to be fun to watch it unfold. I am so excited about it. I hope that there won't be shenanigans. I hope that the evidence is intact. I do have concerns about it. It's been sitting there for 6 years. That's a long time for things to happen in the middle of the night. But the ballots have been under the custody of the clerk of the Superior Court of Fulton County. Now, I've not heard anything derogatory about the clerk of the Superior Court. I do not know her. I know nothing about her, but I'm going to guess, without evidence, without knowledge, that maybe she's thought twice about protecting those ballots, because they've been under a protective order from Judge, what's his name, Amaro, for 5 years, 6 years. And I just hope that she has given a lot of thought to what could happen if she did not honor that protective order and protect those ballots. So I have the optimistic hope that the ballots are as they were when they were deposited and put into her care. We have always suspected that that's where the smoking guns lie, in those absentee ballots, because we know that Susie Voiles and Bridget Thorne and Scott Hall and Robin Satir testified that they saw a stack of 20,000 pristine ballots, all scored identically, absentee ballots that were waiting to be scanned in the State Farm Arena. But I'm going to write a white paper, an op-ed piece about the 2020 election and the evidence that I have personally been able to see and that we have known about for 6 years. And I really want to credit several people for getting us to this point. First and foremost, my friend Garland Favorito. He has been working on election integrity in Georgia through Voter GA, which he founded in 2002. I tell Garland he has been an election integrity expert since way before it was popular or cool. And Garland is, I think, a patriot and has worked selflessly. And if we had the Dumbass Award, he might get the Hero Award along with David Cross and Joe Rossi. But I'll tell you three other significant heroes: Bob Shealy, Charles Bundren, and Preston Halliburton. They were the lawyers who represented Carolyn Jeffords and David Perdue and Robin Soter before Judge Amero. Now, for reasons I don't understand and reasons I do not like, Carolyn Jeffords and David Perdue left the good counsel of Bob Shealy. I was angry about it then, and I'm still unhappy about it. They've never explained to me what their reasoning was. But look, Bob Shealy and Charles Bundren deserve legions, and I mean legions. Shea Moss and Ruby Freeman got a Presidential Medal of Freedom. That should go to Bob Shealy and Charles Bundren if it goes to anybody, and Garland Favorito, because they have worked. I mean, they worked and they sacrificed to right the wrong that occurred in 2020. And I was blessed and privileged to be a part of their team. I appreciate them inviting me into the group. I did fundraising and communications. It was because of what I saw after 2020 that I decided to run for Georgia Attorney General, because I saw that we could not depend on our judges. Thank you, Judge Amero. Thank you, Judge McBurney, who sat on the ballots now for a year after the Georgia Supreme Court unanimously reversed your ass. And what's his name? I just got a mental block for it. I don't want to remember his name, evidently. The judge down in Henry County that I just mentioned, Judge Amero. What's the matter with them? Do they just lack courage, or were they blackmailed, or were they bribed? I mean, I'm not alleging any of that. I'm just asking, would any of that be true? Maybe you'd like to come on The Truth and clear your conscience, because I don't know what happened, but something happened, and it wasn't that the law changed or that the facts changed. Is that you changed, Judge Amero, because you came to the English Street warehouse with 6 deputies from Henry County, and you took the case very serious initially. You said that we, Shealy and Bundren and Halliburton, had demonstrated a prima facie case, and you were the one who unsealed the absentee ballots. That order stands, but Judge McBurney still hasn't given us a time, place, and manner of inspection. What's the matter with you people? And I also saw the constitutional officers, Kemp, Raffensperger, and Carr, do nothing. Carr told my friends that they looked and didn't see anything, which was a lie, because Joe Rossi had written Kemp a 30-page letter laying out in black and white of a treasure trove of things that were wrong. And you had that letter in your possession and had already forwarded it to Raffensperger when you told my friends at a fundraiser at the Blue Ridge Grill that you looked and you didn't see anything wrong. So you're not a truthful person. And I'm glad you're exiting the political stage. And if you think you're running for president and you got a snowball's chance in hell, please reconsider your options. Because I and everybody I know in Georgia who is in the grassroots and who really cares about the truth and wants this country to be on the moral high ground thinks that you let us down when we needed you most. And so does Donald J. Trump. All three of y'all disappoint and did not do your jobs. And McBurney wrote the most scathing opinion I've ever read in a judicial proceeding directed towards David Perdue, saying that you weren't going to allow him to use your court to foster his false narratives of election fraud. Well, Judge McBurney, the Supreme Court does not agree with you unanimously. They kicked it back to you. Now, you still have a chance to redeem yourself. And I've seen some moves on your behalf that are moving in the right direction. Let your conscience be your guide. Follow the law, follow the facts. Don't let politics enter into this. We just want the damn truth. That's what we want. And I will not stop until we get the truth. I won't stop on that. I won't stop on JFK. I won't stop on Building 7, Butler, Pennsylvania, nor Charlie Kirk. I won't stop until we get the truth. But we're inching closer to it. We're inching closer to it. You may also remember I've told you that Donald Trump is deconstructing the deep state one brick at a time. We're well on the way. Russia, Russia, Russia. I call it chapter 1. Tulsi Gabbard gave us the song, chapter and verse. We know proof positive that it was a lie, that it was a 30-minute caused an impeachment and a $30 million Mueller investigation that found no Russian collusion. Not only was there no Russian collusion, the predicate for the inquiry was a farce. It was a lie. It was the Steele dossier, a total fictional work. Damn you. Damn you people who did it. Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, Adam Swalwell, or what's his name? What's his first name? Swalwell. That guy, I cannot watch him. He's right up there with Hakeem Jeffries. When I watch him, I want to puke. I want a sick bag, a puke bag. I get ill at my stomach because they just lie, lie, lie. And Trump has got to deconstruct the deep state. He has got to do it. And I think he's well on his way. I've said chapter 2 is going to be the unraveling of the 2020 election. Chapter 3 is going to be an unraveling of J6. You know it was a fake, phony, fraudulent, made up, quote, insurrection, end quote. It was a peaceful protest until the Capitol Hill police incited the people there to riot by firing rubber bullets and spraying tear gas into the crowd to subdue them, and they didn't need to be subdued. That's when they breached the Capitol. It wasn't before that. They were peacefully protesting. And I call on Jim Jordan and James Comey, subpoena Ray Epps and get his ass before your committee with his bank records. When we get that, the whole house of cards will collapse because we'll find out that he was a provocateur paid by our own federal government. I guarantee it. Boy, I'm using a lot of profanity today, but I'm angry about this, folks. Why am I angry about it? Because your forefathers and mine, many of them gave their lives for our freedoms. And these people are willing to fetter it away on a whim for their own political greed. That's what this is all about. Just like 10 million illegals flooding our southern border, it is pure political, nothing short of political greed and lust for power. I hope you go down. I really hope you go down. And I don't mean in any kind of violent kind of way. I mean, I hope the laws of this nation catch up with your sorry asses and that all of you can share a jail cell together. That's what I actually had a dream. I had a dream, and it was Kemp, Raffensperger, and Carr in a jail cell together in orange jumpsuits. Now, wouldn't that be a pretty sight? I had that dream a few years ago. I did. They deserve it because they've lied to us and they let us down, and they were willing to destroy the franchise in this country and take your vote away from you for reasons that we don't know and don't understand. And it is very troublesome to me. And I just hope and pray that the FBI will go in there and legitimately investigate and look at these ballots. No monkey business, no sweeping it under the rug. Give us just the facts, ma'am. I, for one, cannot wait. And I think that we will learn the truth. Then I think we'll learn the truth about J6. I think before it's all said and done, Ray Epps will go before the Judiciary Committee along with his bank records and any other financial documents that he has, and we'll find out exactly whose payroll he was on. I think we'll find out who told Michael Burns to shoot that poor lady in the Capitol that day, that unarmed 5'2" lady that had no weapons on her. It is one of the saddest, most despicable acts I have ever seen, and that guy got a promotion. Shame on all of you. Shame on all of you. And ladies and gentlemen, we need a Reagan revolution in this country. If it's going to happen, it's going to be because of you and me. I'm doing my part every Saturday and all through the week when I delivered to you what I believe to be the truth based on hour upon hour upon hour, weeks, months, years of research and digging. That's what I do. That's all I can do as one person. And you can too. And I'm not asking you to spend weeks or months or years. I'm asking you to spend an hour a month. If everybody in the sound of my voice would spend an hour a month writing letters to your representatives, to the editor of the paper, to the local school board, to the mayor and the city council, the county commission, have a voice, exercise your voice. They don't ever hear from you. They never hear from ordinary citizens. So you know what they say? Oh, I've never heard that complaint before. Nobody's ever complained to me about that. Oh, well, it must not be true then. Well, a lot of people don't take the time to do it, and other people are afraid to do it. Look, if I can come on the radio and podcast to 200,000 people every week, you can write a letter to your representatives and a letter to the editor and call talk radio. You can do that. And you shouldn't be afraid. You have nothing to fear because they can't kill us all. And we got 70 million Americans shoulder to shoulder, standing shoulder to shoulder, defending this country and voting for President Trump. That's more than an army. That is a whole country of warriors that want to maintain our freedom. And our forefathers deserve nothing less than for us to work to preserve this nation and our freedoms, because many of them gave their lives for our freedoms. Remember that. Think about it. And think about, how can you make a difference? Ask yourself, how can I make a difference? You can go to your pastor and ask him to preach about it. You can go to your church and your fellow parishioners and talk about it. You can talk to your neighbors and your relatives. Now, some of them aren't going to like it. That's one of the costs that you have to accept. But I talk about it every week, and my friends know where I stand. And even people that don't like what I say don't dislike me for it. I had a lady come up to me yesterday, and she said, you and I don't agree on politics, but you're still my friend, and I still appreciate what you're doing. So I'll take that. Thank you. You know who you are. All right. So I want to finish up the monologue today by talking about Charlie Kirk. Before I get to it, I just want to remind you that our broadcast is sponsored today by Perfect Circle Renewable Energy, a restaurant services business in good old Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown. They take care of hundreds of restaurants. They collect your waste vegetable oil, clean your grease traps, clean your vent hoods, and just do a remarkably good job delivering consistent, quality, clean, reliable service. They have a customer service line that is manned 15 to 18 hours a day. They're always there for you. Please give them a shout out. Look them up on the web, pcrenergy.com. All right. So Charlie Kirk, I'm not simpatico with the narrative. I really don't believe anything about what we've been told. Did Tyler Robinson have something to do with Charlie Kirk's murder? Probably. At a minimum, he is a patsy. Who put him up to whatever it was he did? How did they groom him and get his involvement? I don't know. But I had lunch yesterday with a former West Palm Beach police officer. Really good guy. A good friend of mine, somebody I really like and admire. He's a youngster. He's in his mid-30s, married with a beautiful wife and a lovely child and a good career now. He served on the police department for 6 years, and he arrested bad guys. He's a big, tall, strong guy. He's fearless. And we talked about Charlie Kirk. And he actually knew Charlie and knows virtually everybody that is in the Turning Point organization, as well as Erica. And he and I had a spirited debate. He thinks Tyler Robinson did it. As a police officer, he said that all the evidence points to Tyler Robinson. And I'm like, well, all the evidence that the mainstream media has been allowed to put out, yes. But what about the evidence that you have not heard about? What about the reaction of Mikey McCoy, Charlie's supposed best friend and chief of staff, who instantaneously, in a tenth of a second after Charlie was killed, picked up his cell phone calmly, turned his back on Charlie, and walked off the stage around the back of the platform, the tent, and can be seen exiting behind it on the way to his, presumably his car in the parking lot. Not emotional, not distraught, not excited, not despondent, not crying, just sauntering back to his car, talking to someone on the cell phone. It's bizarre behavior. Then we see security members of the security team just seconds before, or a minute or two before the shooting. 2 or 3 of them were looking at their watch intently. And then one of them was giving hand signals. Now, what were the hand signals about? Could have been about anything. They could have been hand signals about, God, Charlie's on a roll. Wow, this is a big crowd. Wow, this crowd is really cool. Wow, what a beautiful day. Hand signals? Or it could have been something more sinister. I think if it was a beautiful day and look at this beautiful crowd and isn't Charlie doing great, would have been communicated over their walkie-talkie. They had earpieces. Why would you need hand signals? It's bizarro. Then you have the head of the security detail saying that he was not allowed to fly drones over the venue, yet witnesses saw drones flying over the venue. There are also witnesses who believe and reported that they saw military aircraft circling over the venue. I'm just telling you, folks, all is not right with the world when it comes to Charlie's assassination. And then what about the searches that emanated from Israel in the days leading up to the assassination? And someone or some people were searching for the name of the judge that has Tyler Robinson's case, for the public defender that has Tyler Robinson's defense, for the doctor that treated Charlie, for the hospital that treated Charlie. These were searches that have been found to have been made emanating from Israel in the days leading up to the assassination. I'm sorry, you cannot explain that to me. There is no logical, intellectual explanation that I can possibly think of that would explain that, other than preparation for what was about to happen. And then there's the subject of the gun. That police officer who I had lunch with yesterday said that that would be with a 30-06, that would be a very tough shot, 150 yards away. I've had other people say that it was a layup, that didn't require any skill at all. So the fact of the matter is, I don't know. But let me tell you one thing no one has disagreed with me about. The amount of trauma that 30-06 would have caused would have been catastrophic and grotesque, and you would have been shielding your eyes from looking at it. And I'm not trying to be graphic or freak you out. I'm just being real with you. It would have blown the back of Charlie's neck and head out. I'm sorry. I hate to, it does not, it pains me to say those things, but it's just a fact. A 30-06, as hundreds of tests have revealed, would have left a large, very traumatic exit wound. There is no exit wound. We are told that Charlie was Superman and that he was so tough and so muscular that his skeleton and body prevented the 30-06 bullet from exiting his body. Poppycock. I don't know what you can say on the radio. I know what I want to say. Something that starts with B and ends with S. But it's just baloney. And I don't know what killed Charlie, but it wasn't that 30-06. And I don't think it was Tyler Robinson. And you're not going to convince me that he assembled the gun on the roof, disassembled the gun on the roof, lowered it to the ground, ran away with it, and then put it back together in a field and laid it pristinely on a ballot. More poppycock. It doesn't make sense. We are to use the brains that God gave us. And it matters to me because this is not the kind of country that I want to live in. And I'm not leaving, so what choice do I have but to do what I can as one individual to try and bring light and shed light on it. So Kash Patel, we're big boys and girls. Give us the truth. We can take it. You might not like our reaction. Is that what you're afraid of? Is the deep state reeling that we're going to find out? You know, it took us 60 or 65 years to find out what happened to Kennedy in Dallas and who did it. But we know now reasonably beyond a shadow of a doubt. And it's going to take a lot less time to find out who killed Charlie than it did to find out who killed JFK, because we have a legion of citizen journalists, which I include myself as one of. And people like Dan Bongino and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly and just a host of other people. Dan Bongino, did I say him? I mean, there are thousands of citizens journalists, and there are people who are really smart that know how to research on the web and know how to do FOIAs and know how to read between the lines and look between the creases, and evidence will come out, I do believe. And if we're allowed to have a real trial in Utah, that's a point at which we will get revelations. But the FBI needs to come clean. They need to tell us what they know. They need to quit covering it up, and they need to trust the American people, and they need to be a part of getting this country back on the rails and purging our federal government of very bad people. I will just say it. I think that Charlie's murder have all the fingerprints of intel all over it. I just don't know what intel. Was it Mossad? Was it the CIA? Why would the CIA gain anything by killing Charlie? I mean, I think the people in the CIA are patriots who want to live in a free country and want their children and grandchildren to live in a free country. But what would there be? I cannot explain it. In Norman, Oklahoma, where my wife and son and I sat eating lunch on September the 10th, and the news came across the television that Charlie Kirk had been shot, I felt sucker punched. We all did. We looked at each other in an utter state of disbelief. And I turned to my wife and I said, why would anyone want to kill Charlie? And she very matter-of-factly responded, because he was making a difference, because he was having an impact. And these people want to indoctrinate children in trans culture and DEI and all this stuff that we've had to live through for the last 4 years of men playing in women's sports and just the utter absurdity of it all. I think there are people within our federal government who are working against our country, who want to divide us, who want to bring us to civil war so they can step in and take control of our country. It's the only intellectual guess I can come up with. And George Soros openly said 20 years ago that he hates America and that he wants to change it. Well, I wish he would just leave and go back to Hungary or wherever he came from. I mean, if you don't like it here and you've made billions by living in this free market capitalist society and you still don't like it, then just get the hell out of Dodge. Just leave, because we do like it. And we loved it more before you showed up on the scene and before people started trying to deprive us of our religious beliefs and our values and our Judeo-Christian faith that this nation was founded on. If you don't like it, go live in Russia. Go live in China. Go back to Somalia. Now, that's not a racist statement. It's just a statement of fact, Elon Omar. You've been here since what, 2018? You married your brother. You obviously wanted him to be able to come and live in the greatest country on earth, but you seem to hate our country. And you've stolen money from our country. And your people have taken $10 billion on the conservative side for our country. Why don't you leave? I want you to leave. Leave us the hell alone. And why the people of Minnesota continue to reelect her and send her to Congress so she can be disruptive and be in a position where she can steal and aid and abet others from stealing, for stealing, is a mystery to me. Are they asleep? Have they got their heads in the sand? I guess it would be more like under a frozen pond, under a ice rink. I don't know whether there's any sand in Minnesota or not. I guess on the banks of all those lakes. It's beautiful in Minnesota. And it used to be a wonderful state. Not so much anymore. But anyway, that's my take on Charlie Kirk. There's a whole lot more. I'm going to write a white paper on it. If you will write to me at johngordontruth@gmail.com. I know you can remember that. You don't have to scramble for that piece of paper and your pencil. Just remember John Gordon Truth, okay? @gmail.com, where everybody's email is. And tell me that you would like to, that you've subscribed. I'll take your word for it on one of those platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter. If you'll just do that, and then you'll write to me at John Gordon Truth, I will send you a free copy of my next newsletter. And I'm finishing up this 5.5-year project, and I'm going to have some bandwidth, and I'm going to start writing white papers. We'll distribute them in the form of a newsletter. And if you'll write me, we'll add you to our mailing list. And every time I author one of those, I'll send it to you. And you can read it. And if you don't like it, you can use it for kindling, because it's going to be cold this weekend all over the country. So you'll be able to use it to help light your fire with, or you can share it with your friends and your family and your parishioners and your neighbors. And we can start a conversation, and we can get this country back on the rails. That's what I'm trying to do, is just one person doing my tiny little bit of a part. And that is the truth. I'm John Gordon. We got Dr. Carole Lieberman coming up. You're listening to The Truth on the John Fredericks Radio Network, 9 cities, 24 AM and FM radio stations. We also come to you on cdm.press, that takes our feed and distributes it on their social media platforms. We also are on Rumble, Getter, Facebook, Instagram, X, and you can watch us. Hit the live button, search for John Gordon Truth. While you're there, subscribe to us and hit the like button if you do. All right. Thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I do really enjoy the emails that I get from you, and I do read them, and I do answer them, sometimes in longer form than others. But I really do appreciate each and every one of you. And come back next week, and I'm going to give you a personal tour of our new studio and the glass cage where Anthony hangs out. I think you're going to like it. All right, let's get right to Dr. Lieberman. We've got riots in Minnesota, war in Gaza and the Ukraine, and the leftist lunatic Democrats continue to fan the flames. It's enough to make you go crazy. But before we let that happen, I'm going to take you with me to my visit to my shrink, America's favorite shrink, Dr. Carole Lieberman, who has been on The Truth several times before. Dr. Lieberman, thank you. And we need a lot of therapy.
Oh, man. I was thinking today how no wonder so many people are committing suicide. The future, I mean, other than, of course, what Trump is going to be able to do, beyond the people who are trying to stop him at every which turn, every which way. But I mean, if you're just a kid or you're any age actually, and you look out in the world, you look at the news, and it's just very depressing. We are regressing. Minneapolis is showing us a lot of things, but the main thing is that we are regressing as a society, as individuals. We are back to like teenage age or childhood, where we are just it's me, and it's back to the id, back to the primal inborn impulses, which are violence and sex. And when what's supposed to happen is that people are supposed to if you grow up in a loving household and everything is nurturing and so on, the violence is supposed to turn into ambition, and the sex is supposed to become connected to love. But we are not, that is not happening in the people who are, doing the protests, particularly in Minneapolis.
Let's talk about sex. No, that's not what we came on to talk about.
It's always time to talk about sex.
I'm a deviant. What's the matter with that crazed old man? All right, so I really have given a lot of thought to exactly what you're just talking about. And I have wondered for a long time, seriously, why we have become far better educated than ever before, much more affluent than any of our ancestors. I mean, we've got the good life. So, and that goes for everybody in America. The poorest person in America is better off than most of the rest of the world.
Right.
They've got food, clothing, and shelter. Malthus's hierarchical needs. Is that right? And so why are we crazier than ever? It does not make sense to me.
Well, it's because of outside influences and some inside influences who are trying to destroy America. I mean, you say we have the best education, or we have more education than previous generations. Yes, but this education, today's education, kindergarten to college, consists of a lot of anti-American hate, teaching kids to hate America. And so it's no wonder that when they grow up old enough to be protesters, that's what they do. Then, of course, we have Soros paying protesters. We have the WEF, not just paying, but, I mean, Governor Newsom is an example of, and in Canada, there are examples of what happens when your leader is controlled by the WEF. And there are all of these things. Then, of course, there's the Red-Green Alliance. The red is communism. The green is terrorism. I mean, there are all these factions that I'm just beginning to mention them. All these factions who are trying to destroy America. And convincing people, showing propaganda, convincing people that is what they should do, that America is really bad and it deserves to be destroyed. I mean, look at Mamdani as an example. Not just, I still can't get my head around the fact that he won, especially since I was saying earlier that I was born and bred in New York, and I still have, my heart is still in New York. So I'm horrified. But he went on to a late night talk show just the other day. I'm trying to remember whose, and the in the middle of the snowstorm, and the audience went wild clapping for him. So it's not just people who voted for him, although I think there was some fraudulent aspects to the vote. But in any case, here he goes on television and everybody's clapping. I mean, it's just shocking that people, do they not know what they're clapping for? I think that ignorance is a lot of it. They may have diplomas, from higher education, but they are ignorant. They're ignorant about terrorism. They don't realize that the people, gays for Gaza, Netanyahu had something great to say about that. Gays for Gaza are like chickens for KFC. Remember that when he talked to Congress? They're ignorant. They don't realize that if they were in the Middle East or in Gaza, they'd be thrown off rooftops. So it's that in all the different other ways that you can look at it. They really don't, they're not, I mean, I'd hate to say that people are dumber, well, they are. People are dumber than they once were, because we certainly have shorter attention spans, and we're being fed drivel in the media. And I mean, certain programs, obviously not from you, but there's too much drivel.
No, I do not identify with the media. I have a radio show and a podcast where we try and educate and debate and inject humor where appropriate, but really it's we talk about the news, but we don't report the news, if that makes sense. So I don't know that I want to be a part of the media. I do have a media badge for the first time out of necessity, but let's save that because that's a whole nother conversation. But I love the expression that I just heard you mention a minute ago, chickens for KFC. I've never heard that before.
You didn't hear him say that?
That's exactly what New Yorkers have done by electing Mandami. I mean, he's going to ruin the city.
Yes.
And the people that are going to be left holding the bag are the ignorant people that voted for him.
Yes.
Because the system he's trying to create has never worked. It's not sustainable, and it's being proven right now in real time because billionaires are leaving in groups, and that's the tax base.
It's the same thing in California, where Newsom has raised a tax, is proposed. I don't know how far down the line it is, whether it's actually in law, but it's planning to be in a law, or a tax law anyway, to tax billionaires outrageous amounts of money. So they're leaving. And with New York, one of the things Mondani promised was free childcare for like 2 and 3 and 4 year olds, before a regular school. Well, why do you think he promised that free? I think one of the things, he promised free buses. He promised a lot of free things with really no way to pay for them. But anyway, why does he want free childcare? Because he wants to start indoctrinating the children at younger ages than when they go to pre-K.
Well, he might also be creating a whole new industry like they did in Minneapolis, and the child care centers can pop up all over New York City and block the windows and fly with the doors. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me what's happening. I do sit and ponder these things to an unhealthy degree, probably, but it almost feels to me that we're living in an alternate reality, that these things are not really explainable. And I just, so I typically problem solve by putting things on a continuum. One radical example would be, okay, you said that people just aren't smart. Well, I happen to agree with you. In fact, I just read this morning that the average IQ in my home state, the state of Georgia, is 98.
Wow.
I think that is barely functional, isn't it?
It's 100 is considered sort of like functional. 100, it's like you usually under 100 is not good. So 98 is not good. I mean, you can go even lower, but yes, that's kind of the bare minimum, 100.
So that's one potential explanation. The other potential explanation is that someone or some group, some entity is purposefully trying to disrupt and destroy our country.
Well, yeah.
And both of those things can actually be true at the same time.
That's true. That's right.
And maybe that's why they're able to pull it off. But the thing that really disturbs me is that we have Tim Walz inciting people to riot. We have people that are rioting, that have been caught rioting, and there are no consequences.
Right.
We have people that have lied flagrantly to Congress, and the rhetoric is good. Man, they get called on the carpet in the next hearing, and nothing happens. What
Uh-huh.
is going on? This is not normal. This is not explainable to me.
Well, yes, it's because it's a bunch of different things that are all working towards destroying America. There's also Trump derangement syndrome. That is a big part of this because the people who are protesting see ICE as a representative of Trump, that Trump sent in ICE. So, let's destroy ICE because we want to destroy Trump. Um, there's the WEF. There's China putting on TikTok, which dumbed down a whole, not just generations of America, people who are addicted to TikTok. And did the TikTok challenges, stupid, dangerous challenges. Who else do we have? Well, of course, there's. I think I might have mentioned the red and the green, the red communists and the green terrorists. I mean, there's a bunch of people
And the
who are
George
trying to.
Soros and the Adam Schiffs and the Nancy
Well,
Pelosi's and Adam Swalwell, who
yeah,
got caught sleeping with a Chinese
yeah,
spy. And Nancy Pelosi said in response that she's not worried about Mr. Swalwell, which I then extrapolate and say, okay, then we need to worry about you too.
exactly, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's sometimes before all these protests. I mean, just looking at Congress, like why they're all getting so rich. I mean, Ilhan Omar, thank goodness people are talking, looking into her more.
Yeah, why is
Um,
she still here? Why is she
yes,
still here?
yes. Why is
She
she still here?
violated our immigration laws by marrying her brother to help him be
Yeah,
able to live here. That
yes.
is fraud. Not to mention bigamy, but I think is that bigamy? It's despicable, is what it is.
Incest, incest.
Incest. That's right. Thank you. I wonder if they
Yeah.
consummated the marriage. No, let's don't go there. Let's don't go there.
I mean, that's the problem. The people need to be punished for these things, you know. And when
But
they're not punished,
if
they,
you or I jaywalk in
right.
Beverly Hills, we will
Right.
get arrested. Well, we'll get a ticket on the spot. I mean, for the ordinary person, the enforcement is quick and severe. But
Yes.
for the leaders and people on the national stage, it seems like they can get away with pretty much anything.
Yes. Yes. Or minorities. Excuse me. Um,
Certainly, minorities get a special treatment, it would appear. And we mistreated minorities in this country for 200 years badly. So I think that there is a constant motion in life that is always in operation, that pendulum that continues to swing on its own. And so at one point, we severely and badly mistreated blacks. And now the pendulum has swung way over to the other side,
right.
where we're giving them a lot of extra um, leeway or forgiveness, call it what you will. I just think that really, this is interesting. This just happened. On my way to this interview, I was grabbing lunch um, up the street, and the irony of this,
Mhm.
I just could not escape it. I snapped a picture of it. Now, where's my dang picture? Oh, nuts. I can't find the picture. I'll find it. Um, it was hysterical. I pulled out of the parking lot at the restaurant, and the city about 6 months ago installed all these no parking signs along the side of the road opposite the restaurant because
Uh,
it's basically in borders a residential area. Guess who was parked in the no parking spots? The West Palm Beach Parking Enforcement. What? I stopped my car and I confronted the guy. I said, "Is this rules for thee, but not for me?" I
yeah.
said, "Move your damn car." I said, "There's a space right there that you can park in." And to his credit, he did. And
Oh,
he looked a little embarrassed, but I just could not believe it.
yes. Yeah.
Please don't let me erase that picture. But I think that is part of the problem for sure.
Yes. That there is this different laws, different, I mean, social justice. Social justice is just putting killers and rapists out on the streets, whether they're, I mean, a lot of them are illegals, but even people who are legally in this country are just, they're not getting punished. Um, People, if they steal from stores, you have to be over a certain amount to get any jail time. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's like it's the same thing as people getting ribbons for participating in sports. Not winning, but if you participate, you get a ribbon.
Is there any way we can get the pendulum swinging back in the right direction? What would your solution be? I mean, you know, I tell you, I had such a great childhood, and um, then I had not such a great childhood simultaneously. But um, the teachers in my grammar school in particular were really revered. They were looked at as heroes in the community
Mhm.
because they weren't paid well. They showed up every day, and they transferred knowledge and taught little children like me valuable lessons. One lesson was if you stepped out of line, you got the backside of a ruler. And I got my share of the ruler. I can measure really well these days. But now if a teacher disciplines, they get disciplined.
Yes, right. Of course, of course, they're getting disciplined in two different ways. There were teachers who cheered and wrote posts on social media when Charlie Kirk was killed. They were happy, they were cheering, and a lot of those people didn't get fired, but it's the people who tried to say that it was terrible. Some of them got fired. It was really an uneven administration of punishment. Um, I mean, we need to have, to answer your original question, we need to have from the top down clear rules, which really, I mean, there's the Constitution, there are rules that you can't, even the protesters, for example, they there's no rule that they are not protected by the First Amendment if they bring guns, if they agitate, if they provoke violence. That is not part of what is protected by and if they attack police or attack ICE, that is attacking somebody is not protected by the First Amendment. And yet somehow they twist this and think that yes, they are, and nothing should happen. I mean, Alex Pretty, for example, he brought a gun. He was in a scuffle before, a week before, and he claims to have gotten a rib broken and told a friend that he was afraid he was going to be killed. Okay, so then a week later he comes back, and this time he brings a gun. Now, what do you think he's bringing a gun for? He wants to protect himself. He wants to shoot an ICE person.
Well, I don't know. You're a better mind reader than I am. My take on it was that he went looking for trouble.
Well, yeah.
And I think he was looking to be a troublemaker. And I also think that he invoked himself into a where ICE was trying to, or not even arrest someone, but subdue them, I think. And he inserted himself into the middle of that. Well, you know, there's some things that you just know that you don't do. You do not put your finger into a socket. You don't run red lights. You don't drive 30 miles over the speed limit, lest you be branded a super speeder. There are just certain things you know better than to do. And one of them is you don't mess or intervene when the man is trying to do his job, because it is going to have bad consequences.
Yes, yes.
So the penalty should not be death. But I've watched the video. I've watched it, and I did not want to watch it. Anthony over here, my producer, he and I consciously talked about it. He refuses to watch it. but now I forced him to watch it because I've inserted it into one of our interviews. But it's hard to watch. It's
Well, I
really hard to
watched
watch.
it, but it's just like Renee Good. Every media outlet has their angle to Renee Good and Alex Preddy. And some angles look like these people were at fault, and other angles look like the ICE was at fault. So you can't really.
Good. I have not seen an angle that in any way absolves her. Now,
Well,
maybe you saw a video I didn't.
I mean, it's so hard to. I haven't seen an angle that absolves her, but there are pictures being shown in the media, and media people are saying that, see, she didn't do anything. I mean,
I have seen that. I saw actually, I think the mayor of Minneapolis said that we need a full-fledged investigation, otherwise it'll be ramrodded through. Well, you just don't need, sometimes, I mean, investigate, but make sure it's truthful. I mean, if you want to investigate and you're going to deliver the truth, fine. If that would,
right.
I think that's fair. But I don't need someone to tell me what I see with my own eyes from multiple angles. I don't need people to tell me what I've heard. She was yelling epitaphs. She was yelling profanity. She was behaving in a very aggressive, hostile manner. And then it's indisputable that she drove off while she was being detained by a policeman. You don't do that.
Right.
You don't put your finger in a socket, and you don't drive off while you're being detained. And the police officers cleaned your door. And worse, there was one standing in front of her. Well, he pulled his service revolver and he shot her. And I'm sorry for that. I hate it. I feel bad for her family. I feel bad for her, but she made a fatal mistake. No one is to blame but her. I've looked at it. I've searched my conscience.
Absolutely.
I've thought about it. That is my firm conclusion. It would be difficult to dissuade me.
Yes.
The other guy, I do believe, is a much closer case, but we're talking about a matter of 1 second. Did the police officer who fired the shot know that another police officer had actually grabbed the deceased gun from his holster and had it? Now that's what the liberal left are all making a big deal out about. They had taken the gun from him, but did he who fired the shot realize that? There's only one person who knows that. And but even if he did, he had a split second to evaluate and for his brain to process that the guy's gun had been taken from him. I think it is a much closer case.
Yes.
But I resolve it in favor of the police officer risking his life, performing the duties of the office that he took an oath to, and for the laws that he was there to uphold.
I do as well, especially since the type of gun that Preddy had supposedly goes off by itself. So we don't know if the police officer knew that but yes. I mean, you don't bring a gun to a protest. If you're a peaceful protester, why should you need a gun? I mean, what they would say is because these big bad ICE or the big bad police are going to attack me. But the problem is there are no laws. They don't believe in laws.
To your point, I went to Chuck's Firearms. Oh, Anthony, I lost my damn sound again. You gotta get this fixed. I went to Chuck's Firearms in Atlanta, and 30 years ago, and I said, I want to buy a pistol. And they said, oh, well, we'll be happy to sell you a pistol. What's it for? And I said, home protection. And now this is a guy who would make money by selling me the pistol. And he said, that's a bad idea. He said, most people who get shot with a pistol, he had it, but
yes, they get shot.
End up getting shot by their own pistol.
Yes.
He said the guy's going to come in at 2 a.m. You're asleep. He's jacked up on crack. He comes in, grabs your pistol, turns it on you, and he's mad that you pointed it at him, so he shoots you dead with it. He said better just to get a shotgun, and if you hear something go thump in the middle of the night, just go. Shh, shh. It's the world international sound for get the hell out of my house.
Yes. I was the head of the National Coalition on TV Violence, and for many years
Sorry,
before
Carole.
9/11, for many years my main cause was, and I testified before Congress several times about this, the impact of violent media on people's minds. And I do think that is also a factor here. Especially after COVID, where people had many more hours to spend playing violent video games. But so these people, I mean, so the things, and at the time I also talked about, like, those statistics, you're more likely to get shot by your own gun, blah blah blah, and I would tell people not to have guns. But things have changed. They changed when Obama came in. Ever since Obama came in, I have changed my stance on guns. I haven't changed my stance on violent media, especially not on violent video games. But I think that it is coming to the point where more and more people are buying, including women. I mean, I would consider that, if things get a little worse, having a gun, because you do need it for protection.
Well, I don't carry, and I don't have one in my car. The next time I'm in Beverly Hills, I've been there twice this year because I've got 2 grandchildren living there now. So, and my wife and I are really smitten over these grandchildren. I'm gonna come see you. You got to help me. I'm a little quick to anger. I always have been, and it's a shortcoming. That's why I don't have a gun at my reach, at my ready. I think I would be provoked into using it, and I don't want to run that risk. But I do sleep with a shotgun under my bed, shells in my nightstand, and shotguns strategically placed discreetly, but accessible throughout my house. So if somebody's going to come in, I'm going to be ready. But, driving down the road, you have opportunity for road rage in just about every city in America at any given time. I just don't want that temptation. And
yes, no, I meant more that I would keep it at home.
yes,
but when I said about Obama, because I used to think the reason why I was telling people, not to have a gun in your home or anywhere, and also children, of course, are likely to get shot as well, more likely than their parents if there's a gun at home.
yes.
But the thing is, at that time, that's when I was naive and believed that all presidents would have the good of America at heart. And then Obama came in, and I realized, wait a second, not all presidents have the good of America at heart. And we do need to be able to protect ourselves.
So what do you think Obama's angle was in wanting gun control? Or is it just simply that, control?
Well, yeah. If there's gun control, then whoever is in power is in control. But no, Obama was particularly friendly. He wanted to be the BFF of all the terrorist leaders, and he was more favorable to terrorism than any other president, and just in general, you can't count on him wanting to just do good for you. You might need to protect yourself someday.
What possible justification would anyone have to want to be nice to terrorists unless they were aligned with them?
Well, absolutely.
That's like being nice to Al Capone. I mean, unless you were a liquor runner. Right?
Yes. No. Yes, and that was the even larger problem.
Well, we've identified a lot of problems.
Yes, we have. What's the solution?
I'm not sure we've come up with the solutions.
Well,
I do believe that if there's a message in any of this, that Ronald Reagan had the answer. Freedoms are not free, and we have to fight for them every day. And it's really a fight that's never going to end. I think it's, as hard, as much as we would like to live in a world that is free from strife, I just don't think that comports with the way that the structure of life has been set up.
Well, the only Ronald Reagan was great. The only thing that he did that was wrong, and he got bad advice, it wasn't really his fault, was to close the state mental hospitals,
Yes.
because that was a huge mistake, and that is one of the still affecting us today. Like, a lot of those people who are on the protest lines should be in mental hospitals.
No question.
And
And you know what has supplanted, you know better than I, the state mental institutions are the state prisons.
right,
That's what we do with our mentally ill. And
right,
I think that that is a real, real travesty. And,
right.
you know, I have a very strong sense of, I believe, in a healthy way, right and wrong, and compassion for my fellow man, even the crazy ones among us.
Mhm.
So I do think I misstated one thing. I said that's not the way that life is constructed. I think what I really meant to say, as I was reflecting on that statement, is that there is really true evil in this world.
Mhm.
And I never really believed until later in my adult life the notion of Satan.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I felt like that Satan was a fictitious
Mhm.
character that just represented bad things that people might do. And now I've changed that paradigm, and I truly do believe that there is a Satan, and that there are people in this on this earth that are truly evil,
Uh-huh.
and there is no saving them.
Well, um, people are born with different temperaments, and some people are born, they become um, psychopaths, but it is mostly, as a psychiatrist, I believe that it is mostly um, nurture. Nature versus nurture. It's mostly nurture. How kids are raised, lovingly or abused. Um, but did you know, by the way, did you happen to come across? I came across this a year or two ago, and I hope I can still find it. Because at the time, it seemed like, this isn't going to go anywhere. But nowadays, I'm thinking there's more to it. There was a story about a school, and I don't remember where the school was. Maybe it was Minneapolis. I don't know. But they had this after school program that taught Satanism. Did you happen to come across that?
I
And
have
some
heard
parents were
people
up against it.
refer to it. Yeah, I've not read it, or I don't have any insight into it. But I mean, I have heard of cults like that. I mean, my God. I mean, look, you know, I heard what you said about nurture. I get it. I just, you know, we all look through at things through our own prism. I grew up in a flagrantly dysfunctional home.
Mhm.
My mother had a serious illness, and it was alcoholism,
Mm.
and it led to a pretty miserable childhood uh, when I was younger. Um, but I've never felt sorry for myself. I actually felt sorry for my mom. She had an illness, and my only regret was that we were never able to get her the help that she needed.
Mhm.
Mainly because, and I pretty much kidnapped her one day and took her to one of your colleagues and got her going on the right path, and it did us
Mhm.
some good. But it just kind of reminds me of the story about the twin brothers, that one was a teetotaler and the other was a flagrant drunk. And
Mhm.
one of their mutual friends decided he just developed an intellectual curiosity and decided to go to each of them. And he went to the first son and said, "Why are you a teetotaler?" And he said, "Oh, well, that's easy." He said, "My father was an alcoholic."
Mm.
And he said, "Oh, okay, well, that could explain it." And so then he went to the other brother and he said, "Why do you abuse alcohol?
And he said, my father was an alcoholic.
That's exactly right. He said, that's easy. My father was a
Interesting.
drunk. So
Uh-huh.
it's just kind of what we make of it. And it's like me having enough sense to know better than to carry
Yeah.
a pistol.
Yes.
Uh, that kind of thing. I mean, whatever happened to the notion of self, uh, not reliance, but
Yes.
accountability, self accountability? Don't you think a
Yeah.
lot of this starts there?
I'm sorry.
Don't you think a lot of this has to do
Well,
with being accountable to
yes.
yourself and your own
Yes.
actions?
Yes. Absolutely. Um, and how much, I mean, one thing we haven't talked about that does play a role in this as well, excuse me, is religion. Um,
Yes.
one of the problems contributing, I mean, it's a whole mishmash of all these problems, but during COVID, when we weren't allowed, some states more worse than others, but um, we weren't allowed to go to temple or church, and because of COVID, we were all going to die. Uh, and that got a lot of people. I mean, yes, we did a lot of temples and churches did services by Zoom, but that's not the same thing, and that got people out of the habit of going every week, like families used to do, and that really not only did that make the family stronger, but it gave a different outlook on life. There was good and evil and the Ten Commandments and all of that, and kids aren't being raised by that anymore, and that is really having, I mean, nobody talks about that, but that's having a really profound effect.
Well, I talk about it all the time, and I happen to
Good.
agree with you very strongly. I mean, I said just the other day, would it be possible to start a new conversation in America and we just lead it off with the phrase, on what do we agree?
Hmm.
Because I feel like, I believe, I hope that there's so much more that we agree on than things that we spend 90% of our time arguing about, which is a pretty small um, universe of things we disagree on.
Uh-huh.
So it seems to me that that would be a healthy thing for us to practice, and maybe start with gratitude and follow it with the Ten Commandments. I mean, I think the problem with the Ten Commandments is that they're expressed in biblical form, and the Supreme Court has told us that we can't teach that. But how about if we take the biblical vibe away from it and just say, don't kill? Can we
Uh-huh.
all agree? Can we all agree as a national cultural norm that the sanctity of human life should be protected and you cannot kill? Can we just agree on that? And then let's start and work from there on what else can we agree? Can we agree that you don't covet your neighbor's wife, that you don't commit adultery, that you don't lie? Now, there would be a novel one to impose on our public servants.
Uh-huh.
What do you think, Dr. Lieberman? Am I just
Yeah,
wishing and hoping?
I think that's great. I mean, really, that's supposed to be out there already. Like, you're not supposed to kill anyone, or you're supposed to go to jail, but you don't go to jail. So, you know, um, I mean, yeah, I think, I think it would be good to do that before people get so, I mean, as it is, like the holidays, people weren't inviting their relatives if they disagreed with them on politics. So it's hard to, I'm not saying it shouldn't be tried, but I'm just saying it's hard and getting harder to
But,
even
but, but
agree
we
with
could teach
relatives.
that norm in school.
Well,
If we could be allowed to teach that as
yeah,
a societal norm in
yeah,
school, it seems to me that that would be a good, healthy experiment to conduct.
yeah.
I do want to ask you about one thing, and I'm a little reluctant to go here, but you
Feel
talked
free.
about,
Feel free.
all right, you gave me permission. Um, the the murder of Charlie Kirk
Uh-huh.
really hit me. I felt sucker punched in the gut. I knew Charlie. I knew him reasonably well. We were not on speed dial. I had his cell phone number. He had mine. We didn't communicate often, but we saw each other 2 or 3 times a year, and we would have congenial engagement. I did meet with him a year and a half ago for nearly 2 hours privately, and he struck me as probably the smartest human being I've ever had the opportunity to know. And to deprive him or us of him,
Yes.
and a generation of children of him really hit me hard. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't buy the story. I just don't believe that this Tyler Robinson I don't think he fired the fatal shot. I don't know what, I think he did play a role. I don't know what role he played. My suspicion is he played the role of Patsy. But there are all these allegations swirling around. Erica Kirk's behavior is bizarre at best.
Yes.
There are all sorts of questionings running around. Charlie questioned Israel's continued war in Gaza and felt that it was transcended from war to genocide. And
well, I don't know if there's some people are saying that he said that, but I am not convinced that he did. I think that that's people who want to put that spin on it. But I had Charlie on my podcast,
as did I,
a while back.
Yes,
and I asked him probably a question that he didn't typically get asked. I asked him, how did his parents make a Charlie Kirk? Like, what went into him?
That's a brilliant question. I'd like to know the answer.
And well, he was he was a little stunned or whatever, but he talked about how they took him to church and, raised him with these different with good values. And that's what we need more children to be raised with. I know. I don't know what to believe. I also wonder about Tyler Robinson. Yes, he's involved in some way, but I wonder if there it seems like there's more to it. It does.
Well, but I want to ask you how you feel about the influence that Israel appears to have inside our nation. This is a sovereign state that openly lobbies and works within our media to push forward a narrative that keeps the money flowing to that nation.
Wow.
And I've not figured out. Look, I'm pro-Israel. I have plenty of Jewish friends that I'll tell you, and I don't know your faith. I suspect that you may.
I'm Jewish.
Subscribe to the Jewish faith. I love you.
I'm even a Zionist.
Well, that's a term that I want to come back to because I hear it used in so many different contexts. I have lost a specific meaning or definition of that. So I want you to help us understand that. But in this country, Jews make up 3% of the population, maybe 2%. They control 35% of the wealth and 85% of the media. I think they've done that through meritocracy. I think they've done it because they've worked their butts off. They've accomplished all through school, all through primary and secondary education and college. The Jewish members of our classes were always at the top of the class and the smartest kids, no question about it. So I have a lot of respect, and I also have a lot of empathy because I think that Jewish people have been mistreated for decades. And I thought that any hint of anti-Semitism was absolutely forbidden in our society. I thought that it was right up there with the N-word, that it was just, you went there, you were ostracized.
Right.
And now it's open season. So that's a lot to unpack, isn't it? Let me stop there and ask you to respond. And
well, there's a lot. Yes, there's a lot to respond to. Well, let me just tell you, you know, I actually spent time in Israel in October. Um, well, helping people, as a psychiatrist, helping people with trauma as part of my terrorist therapist work. I've helped people with terrorism all over the world, really, but Israel, I particularly wanted to go to, and I've been since October 7th. I've been helping people on Zoom, Israelis all over the world, also by Zoom. So I feel, and when I was raised, um, was raised in a synagogue in New York City, and we went maybe not every Friday night but like a lot. And so those are some of my fondest memories, sitting between my parents, at services. And I went to the school, the temple school there, and I was confirmed, which is kind of like graduation, like from high school, but graduation after a number of years of temple school, a school where you learn about Judaism, and you also learned some Hebrew, but that was never my forte. But anyhow, which could have come in use when I was in Israel. But anyway, so part of the education was you absorbed a love of Israel. Like, it wasn't, there weren't classes on this is Israel. I mean, I don't know, maybe that was, I don't remember like specific. Well, you learn the history of Judaism, and that was, that starts in Israel. Um, and it just, I absorbed this love of Israel. And so when I said Zionist, I mean, yes, I know there are a lot of meanings these days. It's used by some people as a nasty word, if you're a Zionist. But I just take it to mean a really deep love of Israel, and a desire to help Israel. I mean, so I was on the board of the Magen David Adom in California, which is the ambulance, like the Red Cross in Israel. I mean, so I have done things throughout my life, and of course, I've always belonged to a synagogue, keeping up Judaism. The problem is, and I'm thinking I would like to write a book about this. Really, parents have not made sure that their children have developed a love for Israel. I'm talking about Jewish families have not worked as hard as parents used to do in the past to make sure that their children develop this love of Israel. Maybe, I'm not saying everybody has to learn Hebrew, but certainly you need to know the history of your people. And that is why we have so many Jewish students who get caught up in these protests and so on, because they don't, Jews for Israel, Jews for Palestine. Like, it's crazy that if they knew, kind of like what we were talking about before, the ignorance, if they knew the history of Judaism, of their people, they wouldn't be protesting, Jews for Palestine. So it really, things have to change. People have been very, and I don't think it's just Judaism. I think religion in general, parents have not been, whether it's, Catholicism, any kind of religion, parents have not really spent time or put emphasis on teaching their children whatever religion they belong to, and taking them to services. And that is a big, where you learn the 10 Commandments and you learn right and wrong and all that. And that is a big foundation for everything we've been talking about.
Well, the one issue with that is that would require the parents to go to church,
Yes.
which might be one of the problems. I happen to have built my house next door to a church.
Oh, well.
And people said, well, you sure you want to live next door to a church? And I said, well, actually, I need to get closer to God, so it's not a problem for me. Now, I've lost any excuse I may have ever had for not attending church, because all I do is walk out my front back door and I'm there. But Dr. Lieberman, thank you for giving me the permission to talk to you about this. It's a sensitive subject, and I think that when my parents told me the three things you don't talk about are politics, religion, and money, and I think we probably covered all three of them today. But I feel safe talking to you about it, and for that I'm very grateful. And that is the truth, and I appreciate your coming on with us today. Dr. Carole Lieberman, the Americans psychologist.